Yes, people. Welcome back to GNA TV, and I hope you guys are all well, wherever it is that you may be around the world. But before we move forward, let's cue that intro. Yes, people. Welcome back to GNA TV, and I hope you guys are well, wherever it is that you may be around the world. I am joined by two top Chelsea YouTubers, big guys in the game. Man like Lorenz is with us. Lorenz, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Very good, mate. Cheers for having me. I'm excited for this. You know, you told us what you want to talk about. I'm gassed, so let's do it.
Man like Carefree Lewis is here with his stinky agendas as always. How you doing, bro?
Come on, man. We out here. Great transfer window, great season, great vibes. I'm all here, man. Big up you guys and everyone in the comment section as well. Yeah,
big up everyone in the chat as well. And people, you know what you need to do. Continue smashing that like button for GNA TV. We are on the road to 3K subscribers. Just hit 2.5K yesterday. So please continue smashing the like button as well. And let's try and get to 50 likes as quickly as possible. Just going to quickly read out some of these super chats from people. Big up Gemma in the chat. Hit the subscribe button. Get the stream out there to more people. Big up to Bex as well. She's always in the house showing her support. We've already got a blimmin' Man United fan here. Cristiano Ronaldo, be ready. Chelsea, did you see him yesterday score 2 in 90 minutes? Yes, we blimmin' did. We did. Big up to Marlon.
I haven't actually seen the goal, so you know.
Not if I didn't even watch the game.
header and I think, I don't even remember what the last one was, but just typical Ronaldo, isn't it?
But he certainly took his shirt off, so you know.
Yeah. I saw the women talking about that on social media. But big up to Slim TV, Jose CFC, Hassan, who's saying let's get to 2.6K subscribers today if we can on stream. That would be great, guys. I mean, guys, what we're going to be doing today is literally just reviewing the transfer, the transfer market or the transfer window that Chelsea have had. We're all kind of happy. I'm pretty sure Lewis and Lorenz can agree that now it's actually finished. It's like a breath, sort of a breath of fresh air in many ways, isn't it, Lorenz? And now we can start talking about football again. Obviously, doing match reaction shows, review shows, and actually talking about what's the most important thing, which is Chelsea trying to compete for these titles. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole transfer market overall, mate, and how it went for Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, first, I 100% agree. Like, we just said it off air as well. Like, yesterday, I just took the day off. I'm like, yeah, I've had enough of this transfer window. Like, you know, in the end, it turned out great for us. You know, obviously, we'll talk about not getting Kounde and stuff. But still, in the end, it turned out great for us. But even until we got Lukaku, you know, it was after Haaland, and then it looked like both are off. And then Lukaku got done, but then he was sat in Monaco for like 3 days for no apparent reason. And the Saul stuff, you know, dragged. And then it was like until the very last second. I'm like, all right. But at least we got things done. And yeah, exactly like you said, you know, we can focus on games. We can focus on playing better, if only it wasn't for, you know, the international break, which has to ruin everything. Lewis wears the same kit.
They all look the same because they're blue, but we move.
He does.
There you go. But yeah, exactly. Like talking about football, talking about, you know, getting things together and hopefully getting, Lukaku even more up to speed with the rest of the team, seeing Saul potentially in some games, you know, involved. Let's see how long that will take until he gets involved. And the transfer window overall, I mean, you have to be happy. Obviously, the interesting part is, I'm not sure which is more interesting. They're both very interesting. Who we signed, obviously, especially Lukaku. But it's also very interesting the amount of players and which players we let go, not only on loan, but for once this season actually sold permanently. Like, we've made a profit. I know officially, like, we had a minus of 3 million or something, but that's because some undisclosed fees weren't included, even though they are kind of public, right? But basically, we made a profit, even though we signed Romelu Lukaku for pretty much £100 million. Obviously, we got Bettinelli on a free and from Fulham, and we got Saul on loan for a 5 million loan fee. So, and we still made a profit. So it's interesting both ways. But in the end, you know, we fixed our biggest issue, which was getting, you know, a big man striker in. Not big in terms of physically, but in terms of a good striker, a great striker. And, you know, we filled the depth or the lack of depth that we had in midfield after letting Billy Gilmore go. So in the end, can't really complain.
Well, I think the perfect place to start, and I'll throw at Lewis first, is Lukaku coming to Chelsea. Was he your preferred striker originally from the outset? And what's your overall thoughts of Romelu Lukaku at Chelsea? Do you think he's gonna shine at Chelsea?
Yeah, I already said from the start I preferred Romelu Lukaku to Erling Haaland. I thought Lukaku was the better option for a player that would hit the ground running for us, and I also thought he'd be at Chelsea for longer than Erling Haaland would be. And also, he wouldn't cost 300 million to just bring into the club. Like, to me, I thought that was stupidness from the start. I get people wanting Haaland, still a quality striker and everything, but he'd need a year to adjust, and I feel like he'd be gone in 3 years. So I don't really see what the point would have been in bringing him in anyway, unless it's just to make profit. And we're not really a club that just should be looking to make profit on all of the transfers that we bring in. We want to bring in transfers that will win us trophies, be here for a long period of time, and also just be able to continue to build the legacy of this club. And I don't think Erling Haaland does that. I think he comes, wins us a few trophies, and leaves. Lukaku's come in, instantly said he wants to retire at this club. That means we're going to have a strike here for at least the next 5 to 6 years. He started the Premier League really well. Amazing performance against Arsenal, despite not being given any tactical instructions. Liverpool game, he didn't really have as much impact, but even his own presence still kept Matip and Van Dijk busy for long periods. And he was very isolated in that game anyway. But very excited for Romelu Lukaku at Chelsea. We finally got a number 9. We finally got a goal scorer at the club. Now we just need to translate that into trophies, and I'm very confident we can do that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Lorenz, do you air what Lewis says as well? Was Lukaku your first priority of a striker coming to Chelsea, or was it Haaland, or was it someone else?
It was Haaland, big ups to Lewis, to be fair. I mean, it wasn't a case of where he said we will get Lukaku. It was just he always wanted Lukaku. It's not like, he's changing his mind now and trying to look like, oh, I've always said this. No, he actually did always say
it. He did. I know he did, yeah.
Exactly. But I was more on the Haaland side of things. Even though I completely see what Lewis is talking about, obviously I was also more on the Haaland thing before we found out how much money he would actually cost us in terms of when the agent fees came out, when the wage demands came out. We're talking more like before that. But my reasoning for that is my hope and aspiration of signing Haaland being, as much as Lukaku might right now even be a better striker, but Haaland, because of the name that he is in world football right now, and him and Mbappe being like the successors to Messi and Ronaldo, that he would elevate the club to a next level. And then because we signed him not even wanting to leave anymore, because I think it's a bit of a different situation between Haaland and Mbappe, where Mbappe just wants to play for Real Madrid for the sake of it type thing. While Haaland, I think, just wants to play for the biggest club to give him the biggest chance of winning trophies. I feel like that's a little bit different. So I had the hope, if we sign Haaland, that will put us on that next level of kind of club size, which allows us to, first of all, sign other big players, but also then might keep him here because he's like, well, I can't really do much bigger than Chelsea anyway. Real Madrid are in the mud because no one in Spain's got any money. So, what am I going to do over there? So then he just stays. But I do see what Lewis is saying. And even if that would have happened, elevating us, we still probably would have had all of the reports in like 2 or 3 years, and him wanting out. It's a bit like with Hazard, but obviously less respectful because Hazard would have been here, was here for longer and probably had more feelings for the club than Haaland probably would have ever built. But when it changed for me to like, okay, let's just get Lukaku, is when it came out that Raiola wanted that get out clause in the contract. I'm like, if you want that, get lost, sort of. I don't care about you. So that's when it changed for me.
No, I hear you. I do definitely. For me, it was Haaland. It always was Haaland originally. I was going on about Haaland before we was even linked to him. I'm sure Lewis remembers. I was on Monster Channel with Johnny. Me and Johnny were actually one of the first 2 guys bagging on about wanting Erling Haaland. I did have my reservations over Lukaku, and that might be because I'd not actually watched him enough, if you know what I mean. And I watched him at the Euros for Belgium, and I thought, right, I could see that he's improved in certain areas of his game. He looks a different player than he did a couple of years ago, and I really hope that he does shine for our football club, and he needs to score goals. For me, he just needs to make sure he scores goals. That's what he's been bought for. 97.5 million sterling to the bridge. He needs to be scoring at least a minimum, for me, 18, 20 goals, and that's just to finish off on Lukaku. I was going to go back to throw this at Lewis. Lewis, what are you expecting Lukaku to score in the Premier League and then all competitions as well? What do you think is a good season for Lukaku?
20, 25 goals in all competitions. I think in terms of goal involvements, you could look for 30 plus. Same thing that he did in Serie A last season as well. And he's a well-functioned striker like that. He can bring assists to the table as well as goals. So
Yeah.
at the very least, a 20-goal season. But I would expect us to see more than that in all competitions anyway.
I hear you. What about you, Lorenz?
It's a difficult one because I would like to aim quite high. So, like, 22 to 25 in the league is what I really be hoping for. Because do I think Lukaku is a better striker than Diego Costa was for us? Yes, in terms of overall ability, I do think he's better. I also think we have a quite significantly better creative team around him than we did around Diego. I know we had Hazard and I know we had Fabregas. But I think as a collective of a team, we're better now, which should give Lukaku more chances than Costa had. I find it difficult to talk about all competitions because we don't know right now how many games he'll have, type thing. Especially if it's a cup round, he probably won't play the early rounds. But if we get knocked out, then obviously he has less games in the latter stages to get goals. I struggle to talk about the all competitions number, but in the Premier League, 22 to 25, I'd be very happy with. Anything from 20, I'd be pretty good with, and anything above 25 would be incredible because, the last time we had that was probably Didier Drogba in 09-10. Do you know what I mean? It was a long time ago that we had a striker score more than 20 goals in a Premier League season.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Guys, I know you're getting your questions in now. Try and save them for later on. We're just going to fly through the transfer market quickly and what Chelsea have done. And then later on, you can get your questions in and ask Lorenz and Lewis or myself some questions. But that is a good question, Rebecca. So I will remember that. And that will be the first thing we'll get back to a bit later on in terms of Havertz and whether he can hit the ceilings of Haaland and Mbappe at one point in his career. So we'll talk about that soon. But I want to move swiftly on to... I'm going to move on to Saul Niguez. I want to go on to the Kounde thing because there was a lot of talks about Chelsea getting Kounde, and it sort of, for me, come out of nowhere originally because it was, there wasn't really any build up to us actually wanting him until I can't remember what Tier 1 journalist brought up. I think it might have been Fabrizio Romano that actually came out with a tweet saying that Chelsea were massively interested in Kounde and Kounde wanted Chelsea, and this was after he turned down Spurs, which was quite nice to hear as well. And I mean, I'll start with Lewis on this one as well. Obviously, Kounde's not a Chelsea player. We didn't manage to get him over the line. Whether the implications of not getting rid of Zuma, getting rid of Zuma sooner rather than later may have affected that. But what are your thoughts on the overall Kounde thing? Do you still think Chelsea can get him moving forward? And are you slightly annoyed that we didn't get him as well this transfer market?
There's always going to be the potential that we go in for him next year. It'll be harder, obviously, because there'll be other clubs that are interested, and it'll be a further year away from all of the financial problems that we've had since the virus came into effect last year. So we could lose him next year, but I've already said our batch of centre-backs is so solid. I'm not really that worried about whether we got Kounde or not. It's just making our defence even better and also protecting it for the future. Long-term, it might hurt us, but we still have options for the future anyway. We've still got Trevor Chalobah. We've still got potentially Malang Sarr, potentially Xavier Mbuyamba as well. We have options. I want Kounde to come in either in January or the summer. We know it's just a case of pay up and you will get the player. And he's already agreed personal terms with Chelsea, so we wouldn't have to worry too much on that front. But in terms of the transfer, we could have put the money in now. I know it's about Chelsea just being self-sustainable, and we're going to be strictly self-sustainable, which is why we didn't put in our own cash to get Kounde. But it's nothing for us to really be that pained about. Our defense is solid. We've got depth all over the pitch now. I'm fine with it. Hopefully we get him next year, but it's not that deep that we didn't get him this year. I wouldn't be worried about it. Yeah,
I mean, Lorenz, I don't know if I've asked you about this. I know you've asked me a lot on your shows about Kounde, and you know what my thoughts on it. But in terms of Kounde, do you think it's, from Chelsea's perspective, a better idea to go for him next season, just purely based on still having Thiago Silva, who could potentially be gone next season? Maybe an Aspi might even give his armband up next season to move on. You just don't know. They're creeping up in age. But do you think Chelsea done the right thing in terms of Kounde and not signing him this season?
No, to be honest, no. I think we put ourselves in a position where, because we we were in a position where at least the reports were that we had verbally agreed this like 50 million euros, 42 million pounds kind of fee. And we was just waiting to get rid of Zuma. And then we will just, finalize this Kounde stuff for that money. And because that came out, we kind of put ourselves in a position of looking like mugs if we then did end up paying the release clause in the last couple of days. I think if that report didn't come out, I wouldn't even be like, it's not like we can't afford 65 million or whatever it was in pounds, right? 80 million euros, 65 million pounds. No, we can't afford that. Clearly we can. So to me, I think it was more of a position of not looking weak in a transfer market, because that could potentially in the future harm us, less so than right now. But I still do think we should have just, first of all, we spoke about this on my stream the other day, right? With you, Jem, or I'm not sure if it was after you, but we spoke about it in a sense, it's difficult how to word it for me. It's like I think we could have really done with him right now, but it's also a case of just don't put yourself in a position where you sell first and then buy, because it always puts you in exactly this position. Because once we got rid of Zuma, we kind of look a little bit desperate for a centre-back. And as soon as you look desperate, the club selling know they can ask for more money. And they tried. It didn't work for them, but they tried. And now their hope is probably that Real Madrid have a bit more money next year. And then it ends up in a bidding war between the two, potentially above the release clause. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not ideal. What I don't know is what the situation will be in, for example, January, because I don't see Real Madrid having a lot of money. There is also the theory out there that Real Madrid don't actually have money, that these bids for Mbappe weren't real type thing. Like they were real, but they were kind of like, smokescreen. It's like, okay, if we know that PSG won't accept this money anyway, no matter what we bid, but if we just claim that we bid, then everyone will think we have all the money and everyone will be scared of us again. And everyone think we're still this superpower. But if we seem like we can't afford nothing, then obviously we look like mugs. And that I'm not saying this theory is true. I'm saying I've heard the theory and it's an interesting one. So let's see how much of a competition Real Madrid will actually be for Kounde, especially, sure, if they get Mbappe next year, it's going to be on a free, but it's going to be on like 6, 7, 8, 900K a week. Like, let's be honest, this is Spain. They don't spend money on transfer fees. They spend money on wages. Like, do you know what I mean? That's what they do. And if they want Haaland as well, that's going to be 75 to 90 million, depending on where his release clause ends up being on performance clauses. Plus, the transfer, the agent fees, and we know the wage demands. So whether they'll actually be able to compete with us for Kounde, I don't know. But I certainly would have preferred to see him now than, say, next year. But at the end of the day, like Lewis said, because we got Saul, we're fine. It's just Chalobah has had 2 games. Those 2 games were brilliant. And because I'm not including preseason, because even Ross Barkley looked great in preseason. He's had 2 games. There's no guarantee that Chalobah would actually keep being this good. Like, we all hope so, and we can clearly see the talent there. But we've also seen it with Antonio Rudiger, who's absolutely incredible right now. But he's had also spells where he was really struggling. So, and if that happens to Chalobah, there is, I suppose, because there is less of a, proof to fall back on what he can do. Of course, he played for Lorient, but he played for a team that just about didn't get relegated in Liga. Do you know what I mean? Played various different positions and played in the Championship. It's not quite the same thing as playing Champions League football and coming 4th in La Liga with Kounde. So I think you shouldn't compare it and say, it doesn't matter. We've got Chalobah anyway. I think 2 games is maybe a little bit too little to judge on that. But also, I don't want to come across like this Chalobah hater. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. But it's like, be careful with trusting a player that's played 2 games. It might work out brilliantly, but think back to Tammy. Tammy had 2 brilliant games. And where are we now? Everyone was telling me for the last 6 months, Tammy's awful, and we need to get rid of him ASAP. Do you know what I mean? Like, after starting, his Chelsea career brilliantly. So that's all I'm saying. So I would have liked Kounde, but I still think we're in a good position. The only thing, I'm not sure whether we have a backup for Rudiger. Who would play left centre-back? Like, who?
No, I agree. And look, maybe me more than most, but because, my preference has always been Kounde. I like Kounde, the player, even before Chelsea was even looking at him. But I agree. I think we are very light in terms of the Rudiger situation. I know people saying we've got Christensen and he can do that job, but he's also, for me, Christensen is also covering the centre-back area, and he's playing. So he's not covering at the moment. He's actually playing. He's meant to be covering Thiago Silva, So I do think we are slightly lighter than what we expect. And not having, with Chalobah, I just don't know Is he versatile enough to play as a left centre back, or is he just a right centre back and the DM?
I think he probably can. I think Christensen probably also could play left centre back, but it's not like.
Didn't Chalobah play all three positions in pre-season?
I don't know. Did he? I've never seen him as a left centre back. He played centre back
in the middle and he played on the right, not on the left.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was all three.
But look, who knows? It's yet to be seen. We've I didn't know your expert was coming in, but your expert's here as well. What's happening, mate? Oh, he's gone. How you doing, mate? You all right?
There we go. Hello.
Yeah, Alex. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, dude. I thought you got all my favourite people one place. Thought I'd come in for a fruitful discussion.
What are you saying, bro? You all good?
Yeah, I'm all good, man. I want to speak a bit of Chelsea, seeing how you guys feel about the Kounde thing. I'm not too, from Chelsea's perspective, I wouldn't be too bothered that he's not come. I was surprised you guys, Loris, you said like you kind of wish you got him now. I don't know. I won't be too bothered by it.
Well, this is my question to you, Alex, because I see you in the chat saying that there's other individuals that are better than Kounde that Chelsea should be looking at. Why are you not confident in Kounde? What is it that you've seen that you don't think he's?
And who are those names, please?
Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily that. I think Kounde's a good centre back, but I guess it's like with Chelsea, right? This window, what they definitely needed was a striker, 100%. I don't think they necessarily needed a centre back, and also I don't think Kounde's a Haaland level talent. Like I don't think he will be. I don't think many people think he'll ever be the best defender of all time in the same way that Haaland could genuinely be one of the best strikers of all time. So I kind of think I'd rather save the money in terms of like if you're leaving it this late in the window. Lawrence made a good point as well about if you're gonna sell first, then Sevilla know they can charge 10-15 million more, and Chelsea will. Like they can afford that. Like they're well within rights to do that. I'd rather just save 70 to 80 million, whatever it would have ended up being, and rechecking the market next year. Just because, like, I think there's other players on at the moment who are on Kounde's level. I mentioned Manuel Akanji of Dortmund. He's always consistently performed. You've got Sven Botman of Lille, although he's left-sided, so I don't think particularly suited to Chelsea. But I don't know. I just think that Chelsea are in a position where they don't desperately need a centre back. Like you've got good depth there, especially with Chalobah staying around. Like it'd be, I think it's suitable to recheck the market next year. And even if Kounde goes to somewhere else, I don't think. Well, it's a loss. I don't think it'll be one that will haunt Chelsea per se.
Okay,
but if I can jump in, because for me, I only say this. I would have hoped we got Kounde because we sold Zuma. Because Zuma was only a backup, so that's fine. If we kept Zuma, I would have been perfectly happy with this. But I just didn't see the need in selling Zuma to, sure, West Ham shouldn't be a direct rival to us in terms of challenging for the league, but they're still probably going to be in and around the top four. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're like challenging with Leicester and Spurs potentially for 5th, 6th, 7th. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised by that. So we've strengthened them, weakened ourselves, and didn't sign a replacement. That, to me, doesn't make any sense.
That's a fair point. Go on, Jeff.
I understand what you're saying, Alex. Yeah, about Kounde, but I actually think there's a real good player in him, and he's a player that I've wanted at Chelsea. And I said this before, prior to Chelsea even being linked to him. I think when you look at the way Tuchel plays and the way and the system of football that we play, I think he fits right in. I think he's someone that likes ball at feet, being progressive with the ball moving forward. He's got recovery speed as well. So even if he does get turned, you know, he can put in a decent tackle. And I think people moan about him aerially. He's not as bad as people think in the air.
Agreed.
Because they look at his height and think, oh no, he's not good enough. But that's not the case. And what I'm getting at is that Tuchel's really showed that he can elevate levels from certain individual players that we currently have at the moment that I thought were not good enough for this club. I'm talking about certain individuals like Christensen. And
Christensen was misused. I'm Team Lewis on that. Be quiet, Jem. You stop the Christian slander.
But I honestly do think that there's a real good player in him, providing that he's being managed by a top manager. I think you could really unlock something decent in him, and that's why I want him at my club. I think he suits the way we play mainly, and under, especially under Tuchel. For me, it works in all favours for me. And I agree with what Loren says. You lose Zuma, you need strength in depth. And I don't feel like we've got... I'm like, all right, we've got Chalobah here and there, but we haven't got recovery, you know, sort of someone that can cover for for Rudiger. And maybe not even that, even if you switch formations and you try and do that, which we might not do now, but we might do later on, I think Kounde again can adapt to play in that system as well if it's 4 at the back as well. So it gives you a lot of options. But I do want to move forward because we need to talk about Saul Niguez as well. Guys, there's over 100 of you here right now. Please make sure that you continue smashing the like button for GNA TV. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe as well. We are going to talk Saul Niguez because I know Lewis is going to cut off soon. I want to get his quick thoughts on Saul Niguez. It was a bit of a roller coaster, wasn't it? Because we were told at 12 o'clock on the deadline day that it was blocked, and that was that's what we heard from a lot of tier 1 journalists, that he wasn't, it wasn't happening. And then all of a sudden, a couple of hours later, it switched around that he's on the cards, and Chelsea were pushing to get him over. He now is a Chelsea player again. As a player, would he have been your choice of midfielder? I know there was talks about Shumeni and some other individuals as well. And how well do you think he will play for this Chelsea team, mate?
I expect him to break into the Chelsea team sooner rather than later. Yeah. Quality player. He can play as a sitter and he can play as a presser, and he is also multifunctional, so he could play in any position that we would necessarily need him to if we're in a crisis. Although I don't expect us to be in that sort of position anyway. I still need to see a lot more about him in game. I'm just going off what I've seen and researched about him. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, very exciting transfer, adds good depth to a position that we're very worried about going into the season. And if we didn't reinforce that position at the end of the transfer window anyway. And there's a potential that if he shows his old form at Atletico Madrid, we could get him on a cut price free at the end of the season too. All in all, great transfer by us. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I hear you. Lorenz, do you hear what Lewis says about Saul Niguez? Did it just surprise you that Chelsea managed to get it done as well?
That we managed to get it done, no. That Atletico wanted to get rid of him, that part is surprising to me, if that makes sense. Like, they gave the guy a 9-year contract 4 years ago. Do you know what I mean? A 9-year contract, and now you just want to, get rid of him on loan. That's weird to me. And I was not in a way of, I don't want Saul, but I was when we initially started to be linked with him, what I heard and what I knew was he was kind of struggling last season. And then obviously all the Chelsea fans that try to justify the transfer was but he played so and so many games. I'm like, that is true. But he played so and so many games because Atletico was injury problems and, this and that. And he was just playing everywhere, but not really playing particularly well anywhere, apparently, right? I didn't watch it, but that's what I read. So that is a bit weird. And I've also seen an interview of him where he says, the team's great. I'm just struggling at the moment when, he was doing this I don't know, he was on a stage and was asked questions and stuff. I'm not sure when exactly the interview was though, so don't hold me to that. But it was a bit strange. I also found out that a few years ago, his kidney ruptured while playing and he just kept playing until half time because, he couldn't come off then. Wow. And then they were like, okay, so how can I be back playing football the quickest? Obviously, if you just take my kidney out, that will heal quicker than my kidney healing. But so then the assistant manager of Atletico had to convince him, no, your health is more important. Keep your bloody kidney, lads, and don't get it removed just so you can play quicker. And then in that healing process, after every training session, he was apparently pissing blood and all sorts of things. Oh, so there's a bit of a madness, right? So first of all, I'm a big Saul fan. I'm a big Saul fan. Just first of all, for his character that he brings across. First of all, the amount of posts, he seems so happy to be here. I'm always a fan of that. Number one, and like I said, I mean, as much as it's obviously a bit silly in terms of his own health, but that kind of, passion, or is maybe the wrong word, but that kind of just,
I guarantee it was closing out a 0-0 draw for Simeone too. It was just for it's just for grinding it out.
Yeah. And like I said, it was even just before half time. But I just that dedication type thing. Do you know what I mean? I rate him as a player, and like I say, he's quite quick. He's got good feet. I think all of us have seen that solo goal against Bayern Munich a few years ago. Yeah. Sure, he doesn't do that on a weekly basis, but he still knows how to do it. It's good to have a midfielder that can finally shoot. And also, I said this on my stream, he played under Diego Simeone. Even if people see him as a box-to-box midfielder, he played under Diego Simeone. The guy knows how to defend. Everyone knows how to defend if you've played for Diego Simeone. Even if you're a striker, you know how to defend. That's how it is. So, he'll be fine, if that makes sense. I'm not sure, Lawrence, it's 3-6-1 tax. I mean, it might be, but it's still the case that he didn't play well. Whether he was in those teams and because of those formations, other players did and he didn't, apparently. Again, I'm not saying that's every game, but
I could give a bit of context to that, to be fair, as well. Saul, when he was playing at Atletico before, really, from what I remember, at least I did more scouting in the past year, but not before. From what I remember, Saul was playing more sort of a hybrid and a 4-4-2 in terms of not box-to-box midfield necessarily, but sometimes he play out on the wing, but he wasn't like a winger per se. So in that system that Atletico used to play, he had a pretty good role in that. And in that role didn't really translate to when Atletico switched things up to a 3-4-2-1. And especially since Atletico at the time, when they were playing their classic 4-4-2, that was because they're getting the most out of having an underdog team. But over the past couple of years, they've built a team with ridiculous players. So Saul's kind of function of sort of being a hybrid between the wing and midfield, when you go back and look at his heat maps of past seasons, he's always in that area. Didn't really have a place, I guess, because you wanted, I forget his name out, the Atletico left back who plays sort of a left wing back. You wanted him there, El Carrasco as well. So I think it was
Renan Lodi.
Yes, I think it might be Renan Lodi as well. Yeah. So I think Atletico with Saul, there's less about his quality dipping off and more about him not fitting in. I mean, there's some debate in the chat about it. I'm going to swing the debate around and review through all agree. Because when I first saw this transfer, I didn't like it at all. Yeah. And I was like, in my traditional Euro expert hat of, he's old, he's going to cost loads of money, and it's a loan, it's going to be option to buy, and it's rubbish for the future. And then I kind of realised it's Chelsea that have got loads of money. And bringing Saul in, it's not as if Chelsea are building towards anything. I like the move because, and this is very lofty, it'll sound it at first, but when you think about it, I don't think it is. Saul kind of enables Chelsea to challenge for a treble. Like, when you think about it, there's no other reason. There's no other reason why he's not coming for the future. He's coming for the here and now, a bit like Lukaku. Yeah. Also, the squad. This squad's filled with depth, right? Genuinely, have a look at other teams going for the Champions League and the Premier League. We've already established, I think most people, the City are not really better than Chelsea. I think few people would say they're behind them. And I think for the Champions League, okay, PSG right now are levels ahead, but that's not necessarily a guarantee that they'll get through it. Only one team can win it. I think they've brought Saul in. I'm not saying Chelsea will win the treble, but I'm saying they've brought Saul in to challenge for as much as possible right now. I mean, I think he could be a part of a historic team. I was thinking about it just now. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Felipe Luis, 14-15. And Chelsea brought in a player they didn't necessarily need. They got rid of him after a year. But what did he do? He provided depth and helped them win the league.
Yeah. No, I hear. I think the other thing we have to bear in mind as well with the Saul Niguez thing is that I don't think there's any real risk factor to it, because all right, we still don't know do we know what the wages are yet? How much he's taking? I don't think they've announced that yet, have they? Or we don't know how much he's taking home yet. But you know, if he flops, we send him back. We go and get a Tchouaméni, a Declan Rice, whoever it is that Chelsea wanted. We do that next season. If he doesn't flop and Tuchel manages to get a tune out of him, and he turns up and he becomes the player he was 2 seasons ago, which people were raving about, and he was valued around 100 or 110 million at that point. It was a very, he was a top touted footballer at the time. You know, if we can get a tune out of him, then we've got a guy in our hand, because we can buy him for 30 to 35 million euros, which has been confirmed. So for me, it's a win-win situation for Chelsea. We don't lose here, you know, in this instance with him. And I don't think he plays. I think he'll be a rotational player. I don't think he walks into the team. But if you heard what he said in his interview, where he said, "There's 3 great midfielders there, but I'm coming to sort of be a start." You know, he knows himself that he's walking into a challenge. It's not like he's going to walk in and start. He knows that there's players there that are probably in better form. Jorginho's just won UEFA European of the Year award, and you've got Kante Midfielder of the Year award. Kovacic, who it has been playing quite well for Chelsea as of recent.
That had a drop off, didn't it?
Well,
I got to jump off because I got to sort out the Spurs tickets.
All right,
hop in a little bit.
Yeah,
no
worries, bro. All right, bro. Yeah, so I just think that it's a win-win situation for us. Should we have signed? Like, would you have preferred a Tchouaméni over him? Like,
no.
At this moment in time, or do you not think Tchouaméni allows us to challenge? Do you think Saul Niguez allows us to challenge? Lawrence, would be my question.
I think. Let me just first clarify, because I think it might have been unclear to some people in the chat. I, as far as I'm aware, Saul is over those kidney problems now. This was a fair few years ago now, this problem, and he's fully fine now, just to clarify. But I preferred Saul for the simple reason that if I want the 4th choice midfielder, and I let Billy Gilmore go out on loan, who was my 4th choice midfielder, Do I want another young player, which kind of defeats the whole point in loaning Billy Gilmour, because then I might as well have just kept him? Or do I prefer a 26-year-old who's played in Champions League finals, who's won La Ligas, who's won, I'm not sure if they've won the Spanish Cup as well, but who's played at the very, very highest level, even if his last season maybe wasn't as good as some other seasons before. You bring someone in who, when you need to rely on him, because the fourth choice option, people need to stop thinking about him as the player that comes on for the last 10 minutes in a game. That's irrelevant then. But for that role, we could have used Chalobah, we could have used Ampadu. That doesn't matter. When it matters is when Kante gets injured again, which he is right now, and then you pick up some other suspension, some other small knock, or Jorginho and Kovacic have just played like 10 games in a row and just need a rest. And then you have a big game or a couple of big games, and your fourth choice midfielder needs to start 2, 3, 4 games in a row. And that's when it makes a big difference, whether it's Tchouaméni, who's from the French league, which is a good league, but it's not the Premier League. He's super young, has no experience at winning anything, and is not the player you probably want to rely on in midfield if you're trying to challenge Man City for the title. That's why I prefer Saul. If you asked me a year ago, in the position that we was in as a team a year ago, I probably would have preferred Tchouaméni, because even with Saul, I didn't think it would have been enough to challenge for the league anyway. But with Tuchel and the squad that we have now, I think it's just a small edge that can help us win the league, while that he has over someone like Tchouaméni. And also, you boys have spoken about it before already. It's a risk-free situation. If he does brilliantly well, we sign him, great. And if he doesn't, we go for Declan Rice, or I suppose either Tchouaméni next season, and we solve the midfield problem again. And also, you have Billy Gilmour coming back from loan, depending on how his loan goes and how he develops in this year, right? So you just put yourself into a position where you can choose, okay, do we sign Rice? How much is Rice now worth to us? How is Billy Gilmour looking after a year of playing week in, week out? And it just puts you in a position where we can do that, basically getting a stopgap in Saul, but a stopgap that is so good that it also can help us win the league. That's why I think is a brilliant move.
Yeah, I think it's like, I think it's kind of brought the perspective around to me as well. I think maybe that's why some people disagree in terms of, I think for the past 10 years, even when Chelsea won the league in 16-17 and 14-15, I guess there's a bit more, it wasn't, Chelsea were never Man City. Or it's like sort of the underdog feeling, in a sense of you're always still building. Whereas I think Chelsea are in a window now where it's like you can play, like you've got the money and you've got the academy and the youth and the loanies to play for the future. Like that's sorted. But you have got one of, if not the best coach in the world at the moment, in a squad that is close to being best in the world in terms of depth. I mean, it hasn't got Messi in place and stuff as well. But you've got a small window to genuinely do something incredible. Like there'll be cemented in the history of the club. And if Saul is a part of that, like Lawrence is saying, Tchouaméni is less likely to help out by far, like in the current right now. If Saul was even a small part of that, then it could just be a really smart thing. And just like usually when I do transfers and things, when I speak about teams, people say like, "Oh, you've got to think of trophies and stuff." And I'm like, building a good squad will get you trophies. But right now, it's the opposite. You have to play for trophies because that's all you've got to do. Like, no one's going to care if Chelsea finish top 4, second, go far in Champions League, don't win it. Like, this is the time where if you bring your Saul in as well, this is where you have to make some history happen. And I think Saul sets Chelsea up for that.
What I was going to ask you, Alex, because I know you're going to shoot soon as well, is obviously if Chelsea wasn't to have signed Saul Niguez, and you could choose out of all the midfielders that you've seen or reviewed in Europe, who do you think would ideally suit Chelsea coming into Chelsea from what you've seen?
Oh, that's a good question. I could name young players, but I'll make it interesting and someone of a sort of a current thing. Actually, do you know what? It's a bit of a weird one, but Zambo Anguissa would have been very cheap and interesting because people think of him as the guy who played at Fulham. He was in the top 10 for dribbles last season in the Premier League. He was in the top 10 for tackles, interceptions last season. He's really useful, really strong with the ball. But I think he would have been a very, very, very good addition. But I think Saul, for what you can get from him, not just a bit like the Ronaldo thing to United. It's not just these playing ability, it'd be what he will bring. It's like that Simeone attitude, that winning attitude as well. I think it'll be an influence on the younger players of the squad, and like we said as well, when Chelsea, they were like the youngest team in the Champions League last season, or something like that. Like bringing in the age and experience at the moment for this team isn't too bad. If this was Man United or Man City, I may not have liked it as much, but for Chelsea, it makes sense. And that only came after thinking about it more.
Yeah, and I like I said, look, it does strengthen us massively. I think we can go into every competition that we go into this season and be competitive. We should be competing for the title. We have no excuses now. Whether we can defend the Champions League or not, I don't know. We'll see. You know, I'm not too fixed on it. It'd be great if we can do it back to back, because there's not many teams in world football that have managed to be able to do that as well. But I expect us to win a trophy. And that leads on to my next question, which I'm going to throw at Lorenz as well. It's sort of a two tacky question is, what do you rate Chelsea's window out of 10, which is what A.N has said here? And what are you expecting Chelsea to achieve this season in terms of trophies? You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. In terms of rating it out of 10, I would probably say 8 out of 10. And then with Kounde would have pushed it to, say, a 10. But I think, or maybe like a 9.5, because I do also think that the fact that even if we have a buyback option for 40 million quid, I don't think we had to get rid of Tino Livramento. Well, obviously he refused to sign a new contract, but he's one of the ones that frustrates me a little bit, especially with the position that we're in with the right wing backs. Like, I that part of the transfer window I find confusing. That before we ever got Lukaku, or as the Haaland stuff was only heating up, right? We was heavily linked with Achraf Hakimi. Sure, we lost out to PSG mostly, or for the most part, because his family lives in Paris. Sure, you're not going to beat that. But we were after right wing back. But he was the only right wing back we were apparently after. And that's what I find a bit strange. Like, so why? So why would you have wanted him, but apparently you didn't want another? I get the case of, you know, we've changed from 2017 where we signed all of our fifth choice options in like Barkley and Zappacosta and Drinkwater and Bakayoko. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad we didn't do that. But you can't have a second choice. So, and especially now we were speaking about this the other day about should we have let Callum Hudson-Odoi go on loan to Borussia Dortmund? The reason why, in my opinion, we couldn't is because otherwise we'd be screwed. We wouldn't have enough players at centre-back / right wing-back then if we let him go, right? But if we just signed the right wing-back, or if we just managed to convince Livramento to stay, we could have comfortably let Callum Hudson-Odoi go on loan to Borussia Dortmund, develop drastically for a season, and then either we make huge money on him or he comes back and is a star. Like, so the fact that we let Livramento go is a bit annoying to me. Even if you have a buyback option, and even if we couldn't do much about it because he didn't want to sign a new contract, it's still a bit annoying. Hence why I'm going to say 8 with Kounde, maybe 9.5. And then some of these players that we let go of would, like, if we didn't do that, that would have been my 10, if that makes sense.
I hear you. I do hear you. Guys, let's try and get to 100 likes. We're on 70 at the moment. We've got over 135 people still here. Thank you for tuning into the channel. We massively appreciate that as well. Alex, question falls onto you as well, mate. Obviously, I know you're not a Chelsea fan, but how well do you rate Chelsea's transfer market, and where do you see what do you see Chelsea doing this season?
Yeah, stay for a good last question. I think it's a. You know what? Before I spoke about the centre-back depth, it would have been 10. I'm going to make it a 9 out of 10 because I think Lukaku is a transformative effect to the club. Even if it's one player that we've already seen, the effect he's had on Chelsea is unreal. By the way, I like how ingrained he's already got. Like against Liverpool, he was at the centre of what looked like team talks and things. So he's come in, major effect there. And I think Saul, as I've said, I think that elevates Chelsea pretty well in depth. I kind of disagree about the right wing back thing, just because I think if this was Wolves or Tottenham, I'd agree. But I think in Chelsea system, a right wing back isn't a right wing back. He's just a right winger parked on the formation sheet a bit deeper. Like when Hudson-Odoi or Reece James plays, they're always far up the pitch. And I think if Chelsea need to play a defensive right back, they can put in Azpilicueta or Reece James. Like Azpilicueta done it against Real Madrid, but I'm sure it can fill in there. I get the sense of that thing though. That's the only thing that's made it not a 10. Selling Zuma, and it has made me think. Like if you asked me a year ago, I would have rated this as 10. But after what happened to Liverpool, we've seen what can happen to centre backs and just them just get evaporated from the side. So selling Zuma and not bringing it back up in, I do worry about that, especially since Chelsea also sold Mark Gay and Tomori, which even though they made money off them, you've lost depth there. But overall, make it a 9. And for what you could achieve this season, I think Chelsea will win the league. I'm pretty confident on that. I've actually got City to finish third, United to finish second. Potentially Liverpool could go in there. But I think Chelsea will win the league. And the Champions League is I'm never going to predict who wins it until it gets to like the round of 16. Like when I predicted Chelsea win it last year, big up what a prediction. But I say Chelsea are up there because even though PSG have added majorly, let's look at Manchester City every year and see how they got knocked out by Tottenham and how it can all go wrong if you just get a bit of bad luck. And if you get good luck, it can bounce up. So I think Chelsea have put themselves in a great position to win the Champions League and the Premier League. But I'll commit to saying they will win the Premier League.
Wow, there you go. Alex with his comments there. Alex, thank you very much for that, mate. I know you're going to shoot anyway, so thank you for jumping in and giving us your thoughts. Obviously, you're doing the European show on here again very soon, aren't you? Potentially next weekend, Sunday. So, yeah, we're in talks about that as well. But
that's it. Make sure people tune into that because the last one we did, the fans attacked the pitch and the game got called off. So it was definitely fun. You're worth tuning into the next one.
It was a crazy, crazy game, not going to lie. But thank you very much, mate. Appreciate you joining us for today as well.
Cheers,
mate.
Man. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, guys, look, what I will do is I will open up the lines and allow you to come in one by one and ask Lorenz a question. If you want, you can ask me a question, get your questions in. You can do that as well. We'll do that a bit later. But Lorenz did bring something up that I completely forgot about, and I did want to actually talk a little bit about it, and it was Callum Hudson-Odoi. The Callum Hudson-Odoi thing didn't make sense to me. Him being sent out so late, especially like we said, there was no real cover. I know who was disagreeing with us on your channel. Was it Dammy?
Dammy.
Yeah, he wanted him. He was saying he thinks he should.
A lot of people on Twitter did. A lot of people on Twitter were very heavily opinionated on how outrageous it is that we didn't let him go.
Yeah, and I do get it. Don't get me wrong. He is. If it gets to the end of this season and he ends up having no minutes, then would it have not just been better just to loan him out? Because even if he was sitting on the bench, he wouldn't have got games anyway. So I get that argument, but it's still you still want to have squad depth.
But
do you know what I mean?
That's banking on a lack of injuries because, and I see it in the chat here as well, right? Someone saying we have three very able right wing backs, but you can't count Aspie as a right wing back. Because as soon as one of the centre-backs gets injured, and Thiago Silva will get injured, you don't have the option of Aspie at right wing-back realistically. Because you need him at centre-back. So from that point onwards, you need to start Reece James or Callum Hudson-Odoi. Now imagine you didn't have Callum Hudson-Odoi. You would always, and I mean always, have to start Reece James every single game for however long Thiago Silva's injured, pretty much. Or you have to start Aspie every single game for the whole period of Thiago Silva being injured. It has to be one of the two. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Either it would have been nice if we managed to keep Livramento, or it would have been nice if we signed some sort of right winger, except Adama Traore. That was not a valid option in my opinion. But anyway, so that's just it for me. And people talk about Saul can play right wing back, Saul can play left wing back. All right. Okay, just because on a lineup sheet he was drawn up as the wing back for Atletico Madrid. Watch an Atletico Madrid game, especially in those games where he played there. He did not act like our wing backs. The way Atletico played the other day, they played with two up front. Neither of them was a striker. Koke was a sole DM in front of a back three. And then you had like a line of four, including the wing backs, in front of Koke, who was the DM, who isn't even a real DM, mind you. But the wing-backs come central, and then the strikers went wide, and then the centre mids went like forward to almost play striker. It's almost like what Sheffield United did last season or the season before, but like one line further up the pitch. Like just because he was officially a right wing-back didn't mean he actually acted like a right wing-back. And would you really want a left-footed player playing at right wing-back? I know I wouldn't.
No, and I air everything you're saying, to be honest. And I mean, if we did let him go, we would have left ourselves vulnerable. And would Adama Traore have been the perfect replacement for him coming in? It's a risk factor, isn't it? It's the unknown with him. Do I think Tuchel could have got something out of him? Potentially. I think he's got enough ability to cause problems. You only have to watch the Man United game, and he was up and down like a nutter, wasn't he? Giving him problems.
A frustrating player, Adama, who just doesn't do enough. Like he has all of it there to do everything, but then 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, he ends up doing nothing instead. Even though he could do so much, but he never does.
he's just got no out. His outputs are quite poor, I think. Like he does all this great
crossing is
running,
brilliant,
runs
it's
around
not it.
people. He gets in the box and then he goes and does this absolutely, I don't know, just poor either shot at goal or a bad cross. I mean, his crossing's got better. Don't get me wrong. He was worse before. He's been working on that. But Dan's with us as well, my boy Dan. How you doing, bro?
Big up, Dan.
Good, man. I'm good, man. How you doing, Lorenz? How you doing, Jem?
Very good, bro.
All good, bro. All good. I see you obviously commenting about as soon as we started talking Callum Hudson-Odoi, and I know how big of a fan Dan is when it comes to Callum Hudson-Odoi. What are your thoughts on the potential? Well, at the time, the potential of him actually going to Borussia Dortmund and leaving Chelsea. Do you think the timing was all wrong on it, and do you think it would have been better for Cho to go and have done that moving forward?
What's funny is me and Dami actually spoke about it, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. Like to the fullest extent. Obviously, I'm huge fans. Yeah, a bit biased, but huge fans of Tomori. And the way he was treated already, first of all, in my opinion, I thought was awful, especially considering that he was one of our best centre-backs, if not the best centre-back at a point when he built a partnership with Kurt Zuma under Lampard. And then obviously for some reason or another, obviously the injury happened and then he struggled to get back into the team. And that's fair. Do you know what? If your team's playing well and like the guys who have replaced you are playing well, then fair enough. But we were losing games. We were losing games under Lampard, and Tomori was still struggling to get back into the team. That's where my frustration was coming from, where we were conceding goals and whatnot. The same goes for Callum Hudson-Odoi. Look, at the end of the day, I know I'm not a stats guy. You can use any stat you want to suit whatever narrative you want. And I know how you feel about Cho as well. There's so many different conspiracies. And I just think it goes both ways. If you think that he might not be working hard enough in training, who's to say he's not working hard enough in training, or he is, working hard in training, but not getting the game time that he deserves. I mean, he has some of the best creative stats in Europe for some of the most creative wingers out there, basically on a minutes ratio. And I just think from the outside looking in, considering some of the things that we were lacking last season, I don't think we're going to have too much of a problem this year. But considering what we were lacking last season, the fact that he wasn't given an opportunity, I mean, you look at the way Chelsea football, I mean, Lorenz, Jem, you all know, man, the Chelsea Twitter can be one of the most toxic places on earth. There are people who have their agendas. There are people who have their avies, the players that they support. They're people who use other players within the team to beat the stick and beat the drum of their own player. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the minutes that Hudson-Odoi has played under Lampard and Tuchel doesn't reflect his ability. And I think everyone can agree on that. I mean, Hudson-Odoi has similar assist and goal stats to Bukayo Saka. And Bukayo Saka is considered as one of the best young talents in the league. And that, for me, tells you that we've got a real gem on our hands. And I was really disappointed that he wasn't allowed to go. Obviously, I heard a bit of Lorenz's point about the depth issue. And I totally understand that a club is going to make the decisions in its best interest. However, and the big however is, we promised this guy game time. The reason why we gave him a new contract is because we didn't want to let him go. If you're not going to play him for more than 10 games or give him 10 starts in the league, why can't he go on loan? If anything, make it a loan with a recall clause. Obviously, no club does that these days, but I just think it's a bit annoying.
Well, Dan, the thing that got me with it is the narrative was pushed that going into this season, he was not for sale. He wasn't going anywhere because Tuchel was going to give him time on the pitch, right? Which is what we've all wanted. We wanted Callum Hudson-Odoi to be given more of an opportunity to show us whether or not he is this player that people, especially the Cho lovers, are talking about. Now, I'm not a Cho lover and I'm not a Cho hater. I just want the best for the club and the best for Cho in many ways. And if it means that progressing and becoming that player, meaning him leaving the club, then maybe he has to go and do that. And if we're going to keep limiting him on the pitch in terms of the timings and stuff like that, then he should move on. And it's going to be interesting to see, because if he doesn't get the minutes this season, I think he should just go. If it's the same issue as what we had last year, then why didn't we just let him go at the beginning of the transfer market and then maybe look to bring in someone else then? Because I still think we would have had to have brought someone in there. Do you know what I mean? And
can I say a few things here? Because I think what people need, there needs to be a bit of context about Callum Hudson-Odoi. There is a reason why he doesn't get as many minutes. The big reason is he's never had a loan. Why has he never had a loan? Because he had decided to hand in a transfer request 3 days before the end of a transfer window, which ended up giving him a huge contract, which never allowed him to basically go anywhere on loan because no one would cover those wages. And we'd be like, why are we paying 120K to a player? Because we'd still be paying most of his wages if we sent him out on loan. Maybe not with Dortmund, but if we sent him out a bit earlier in his career, right? Once he had the contract, right? We'd be like, why would we send out someone on loan who we're paying 120K to? Plus, obviously, the injury was unfortunate. But the big reason why he never had the loan and why he never got minutes is because he decided to put in a transfer request. And also, that's what the people that are apparently always closest to Callum Hudson-Odoi, the sources, they always said him and his brother, who's his agent, never wanted him to go on loan, which is also why they only changed their mind once Dortmund came in a week ago. If he said to the club, I want to go on loan in June, we might have found a solution. We might have signed a right wing back. We might have allowed him to go back out on loan. But because he always said he didn't want to go on loan, quite specifically, it is said that he didn't want to go on loan.
So, Lorenz, this is the beauty of podcasts. Everyone can agree to disagree, and I have to disagree strongly because, obviously, considering the people that I know and I've spoken to, one of the biggest things at the beginning of the season that was said of Cho to Tuchel and the hierarchy was that he wanted to fight for his place. He wanted to get minutes, and obviously, we saw throughout pre-season, Cho was playing, and he was playing well.
He was playing well.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because
so what was Chalobah doing if Callum Hudson-Odoi was playing well? Was Chalobah being the best centre back in the world? Because there was a big difference in performance. Chalobah was taking his chance. Callum was not.
What do you call taking your chance in a position that isn't your original position though? Can you honestly tell me, just very quickly, can you honestly tell me that Pulisic, Ziyech, Werner, despite being the big money signings, and I understand football. Football happens. When you spend so much money on this level of talent, you have to play them and you have to get the best out of them. However, can you honestly tell me, based on last season's performances, that they all deserve to play ahead of Callum Hudson-Odoi on several occasions? I disagree with that highly.
I agree that Callum hasn't had enough chances at left wing back to prove that he should be playing over the other guys. But I can't watch training. So I need to be able to trust the manager, who I believe is as good as Thomas Tuchel. If he keeps picking other players over Callum at left wing back, surely that has to tell us that these other players perform better than him in training at left wing. Otherwise, why would he Otherwise, he would play them over him.
But what is he, Daniel? Before you go, what is he? What is he?
He's a winger. He's a winger. He's a winger.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, why is he not playing left wing back? Because Pulisic is doing better in training.
No, that's not true. We don't know that.
But we must assume that, surely. Otherwise, what's the reason?
So I'll tell you what it is. Let me tell you what it is. Do you remember during the course of the season last year where Pulisic wasn't playing, then he speaks out, then you have the whole of America screaming down Chelsea's neck that Pulisic needs to play. Then Pulisic suddenly comes into the side for a couple of games. Look, you have to understand when it comes to football, and when it happens at every organization, there's propaganda there. There's situations where some players will play more than others. All I'm asking for is for Callum Hudson-Odoi, just like Tomori, just like we're seeing with Livramento, let him go. Because at the end of the day, for me, we are stopping someone who I believe to be a gem. We are stopping him from succeeding. There's nothing wrong with believing that you don't, or believing that Cho isn't as good as maybe some of the Cho lovers like myself. Of course, there's nothing wrong with believing that you don't think he's as good as we're making him out to be. I don't even argue that. Like, that's an agree to disagree. We all have footballers we like. We all have footballers we might not take to. I'm of the mindset of Chelsea, let this guy go. Of course, you want depth. Cho is way better than being the third option right wing back. He's way better than that. That's just me.
My only thing with that,
maybe I'm not putting my point across properly, because I agree with what you're saying in terms of talent, right? I agree, especially under Lampard, when he was playing Werner out on the left wing all the time, and Pulisic was injured at the time, and even Ziyech wasn't fully fit at the time. Yeah, I 1,000,000% agree. Callum Hudson-Odoi should have been playing left wing week in, week out. Do I believe that he should be playing there right now when we have the options available in the front three that we have? Then I potentially do not agree. But that doesn't mean that I don't think he's good. I'm just saying, and even we've heard this the other day, the reports, he was doing amazingly well in training in preseason, looked super sharp, worked on his strength as well over the summer, so, bulked up a little bit, which is important, or is good for him. But in the preseason games, apparently also, according to in Tuchel's opinion, he didn't play as well as he did in training. And that's then eventually becomes a problem if you train well. And then you get a chance. Sure, it was only preseason, but at the time, you could only play him in preseason, right? And then you don't perform. It's a problem. Sure, I get what you're saying with right wing back is not his main position. I get that. But even if you think he should be above Pulisic, and even if you think he should be above Werner, he still doesn't start in the front three, though.
One last, because obviously
I hear that.
Go around the circles. Very. When Lampard was in charge of Chelsea, what was when it came to Havertz? What was one of the biggest criticisms of Lampard? Playing Havertz out of position. Playing Werner out of position. You can't get the best out of these guys when you're. Why are we? I just think when it comes to Cho, there's just a different standard. He has to play at a different level to get a chance. He needs to prove at something unbelievable to get a chance. Why is that?
What happens when you hand in a transfer request 3 days before the end of the transfer window?
But
That's pressure.
Let's go back. We can't just cut the story short. Let's go all the way back. When Cho was looking for a house, because I have it on good authority that Cho was ready to go to Bayern. He already started looking for a house all those years back, and then Chelsea begged him, offered him a new 5-year deal. Is it Cho's fault for accepting a contract at the club he wants to succeed at? Should we be
pressure the club into that contract because of the transfer request?
Lawrence. He's look.
But I will say one last thing on the right wing back. Alex, you're an expert, mentioned it earlier. Our right wing back, especially when we're playing the lesser sides, are basically not right wing backs, right? They're basically right mids, wide right midfielders. How high they're up the pitch. For example, when we won 4-1 at Palace late last season, Hudson-Odoi in that game was playing right wing back and had a phenomenal game. It was brilliant. So he has all the physical attributes to play that role really, really well. Sure, he needs a bit more game time to get even better at it, but he's not.
He's not because he's not been given the minutes. And when he has been given the minutes, I think he has performed in some, but not in all.
Playing that's my opinion. Is basically like playing Havertz in the 6th position behind next to Kounde.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but it's that
against Real Madrid. It is, but not against lesser sides. Absolutely not. You see what right wing backs are all the time.
But wait a sec, Dan. You said he's a right winger, yeah.
And he's a winger.
All right, so he's a winger, which means that what he hogs that line. Yeah, that's where he should be. You know, direct with the ball, attacking. The problem with the right wing back terminology is that you do that going forward. It's just that you have to defend as well, and we're asking him to defend and get back and be solid and
he's
maybe be
even bad at that. I don't even think he's done badly.
He's not his game. He ain't bad at it, but
he's not Victor Moses though.
He's not Victor Moses.
He's better than that. And on top of that, if I might add, let's even consider the fact that the last time we saw him play right wing back was, as in a league game, was last year against Crystal Palace, where we won 3-0. No, look. No doubt, but we're having an isolated debate. If we're taking it out of it, bro, I'm fine with him not being in the team because our team is playing well. So that is neither here or there. Like, I'm totally fine. When our team is playing well, I will never have player agendas, of course. But the last time we saw Cho play in a game at right wing back, or even on the pitch, was when he played right wing back against Crystal Palace, I believe, where we won 3-0, 4-1, something like that.
Was that the last game? I don't even know that.
It was so far back. That's you forget that Cho's even in the team because he doesn't get the minutes. But he played really well in that game. Like he played really, really well. And then what happens after that? He's out of the team. He's the person who gets sacrificed and eased out of the team. And there's no real explanation why. The same reason why someone will say he's not playing well in training is the same way I can say, well, in the last match I saw him play, he was excellent. And the evidence that we have available to us should be the one that we use.
I hear it.
And until pre-season, where he wasn't excellent.
Listen, look, one thing that we like doing on GNA TV is what we call debate shows. And this Cho debate seems like it'd be a perfect one because Lorenz, it's nice to hear someone on the other side of it. Obviously, Lorenz is very on one side and Daniel's on the other. But I think you both get each other's points on where you're going with it.
100%. I even agree with Daniel to some extent.
Yeah.
I would never prioritize Hudson-Odoi or any other individual over the club's success. And because we didn't sign a right wing back, I personally don't care about Hudson-Odoi as an individual. I care that without him, we don't have enough players. So I need to keep him. Do you know what I mean? That's all I'm basically getting at.
We will have a Callum Hudson-Odoi debate show 100% because I'm expecting him to get minutes. And if he does or he doesn't, we're going to end up having to talk about him. And maybe we can set up a show here again where we do a debate and it's all about just Callum Hudson-Odoi and what we think about it and move from there. But Dan, while you're here as well, mate, obviously we were talking about the transfer market for Chelsea and how it all went. And what's your overall thoughts of Chelsea's business? And what would you rate it out of 10 as well?
I think Chelsea's business indicated to me that we have an excellent squad. We have an excellent coach who really believes in his squad. Let's even look at the parallels, man. Like, really and truly, let's look at the crop of defenders that we have in Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, Rudiger, Christensen, Reece James, Ben Chilwell, Marcus Alonso. When we were under Lampard, we were literally labelled, or the general consensus label was individual errors FC. That was the general label. That was what was said of us. You could probably add Tomori Zuma into the mix. These were the defenders that we had.
Yeah.
Since Tuchel has arrived, he has added no defender. He's not added one defender to our ranks, not one. And it's the same.
I suppose Chalobah, but yeah.
Yeah, if you want to add Chalobah, yeah, you can. But I see Chalobah as almost like a Tomori Zuma replacement. So he's still growing and whatnot. So like, it shows you how much he's transformed the squad. He's got the potential out of this squad, the potential that we all believed as fans that we had. Of course, as fans, we really wanted Lampard to succeed. But at the end of the day, the job came too early for him. And right now we have one of the best coaches in the world. And he's really getting a tune out of these players. And then to add Lukaku and Saul, bro, like they were saying on the terrace, like, why are people not saying it with their chest, bro? Obviously, we're still going to make fun of United and say they're the favourites and all of that.
Yeah.
But Chelsea Football Club are the favourites for the Premier League title. I think we have every right to say we are the favourites. I think we've got, when we're talking about completeness of squad, so that's including the manager, including how the players perform for the manager, and including how each individual performs in their position. So, for example, when Marcus Alonso plays left wing back as opposed to left back, he's one of the best left-sided players in the world. So, for me, we've got the squad ready to win a Premier League title again. And in terms of the transfer window, I would say 8 out of 10 as well. It's a nice, solid 8. I don't really mind what anyone gives them, but 8 and above definitely serves the right purpose because...
Do you think, when you look at Chelsea's squad now, we brought Saul Niguez in and we brought Lukaku in, would you say that we have the best overall depth compared to our challengers?
Overall,
in terms of positions as well, when you think about the midfield and you look at the defense and you look at, obviously, maybe the striker are a little bit light because if Lukaku gets injured, then we're in trouble. But I mean, overall, do you think we've got the better depth?
I think so. When we're looking at the top 4 from last season, I think we've got a better depth than Liverpool. I think we've got better depth than Man United, except for I think Man United have the better attack, but overall as a squad, I think we've got better depth than Man United. And I would say our depth is equal to City's. When I think City squad, I'll tell you. Look, I think it's about it's a debate. If you laid out the players for me and I could see it more visually, then I could make a more decisive decision. But I think our depth is one of the best in the league, definitely, easily top 3 for sure. Because you got the attack is loaded: Werner, Pulisic, Havertz, Ziyech. Show if you want to add them to the mix. Lukaku, of course, added to that. Then you look at the midfield. You got Saul, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante. You got right wing back. You got Cho, Reece James. Left wing back. You got Alonso, Chilwell. Centre backs. You got Christensen, Silva, Chalobah, Azpilicueta. Bro, we've got a good solid team going forward. We haven't got names. I wouldn't say necessarily our defense is like star-studded names, but they work as a unit. I mean, we're factually the best ever Champions League defense, like factually, statistically, like it's facts. So we've got a unit, and I take a unit over a team of individuals any day.
We've got a manager.
We've got a manager.
We've got a very, very good manager. Would you agree as well, Lorenz? In terms of the depth thing, we've got probably the best depth in the league, or?
It's difficult to compare because I do think City have better defensive depth. Sure, it's because of our formation, but still, I do think they do have better options there. The fact that Laporte isn't a start for them is mental. Do you know how good bloody Laporte, especially like 2 seasons ago, was? The fact that he's not a starter anymore is crazy. But I suppose it's the similar case of it can only be one of Thiago Silva and Christensen. So that's also mental. Well, I mean, it can't only be. You could, in theory, play Christensen right in the back, but then you drop Aspi, who's been in that role absolutely fantastic. So I do agree with Dan. The attack, probably United have better numbers, but in terms of the starting output, I think our attack is the best in the league now.
Nice. Wow. I wouldn't have said
because City didn't get a striker. That's the only reason.
You think Ronaldo, Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood, you think we've got a better attack than that?
Yes.
Cavani. Oh, interesting. Fair
just
enough.
Because of Rashford and Sancho. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not Mount and Havertz in my eyes.
Fair enough.
I'm running with that one. I like that, actually. I like that one. I'm not going to lie.
Bruno is a difference, but it's like I can only compare 3v3. So, do you know what I mean? With Bruno, they might have the best attack, but that's like, okay, they also play 4 attackers. You know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. To be honest, would I say that we've got the best attack in the league? It's got to be up there, isn't it?
But we won't score the most. Just to make that clear, we might have the best attack, but we won't score the most. That's just because we don't have that DNA yet. We're a lot of our players are too young, except Lukaku, to have that monster killer instinct that especially City do. We won't go through a season like we did under Carlo and batter teams 4, 5, 6, 7-0 pretty much all the time. We won't do that. And United with Ronaldo could do that just because he's that guy. And City obviously do that anyway.
I want to just quickly jump back. Earlier on, Rebecca asked a question about Havertz, and it's probably a good place to start with Havertz. She said, do you think Havertz his ceiling can reach the likes of an Mbappe or a Haaland? Has he got the potential to be in that bracket with them kind of players, Daniel? Do you think Havertz has got all of the potential to do that, or do you think he's still going to be, even at his peak, he will still be one tier below them two?
That's tough to say. I think he's capable. Mbappe, it's tough, man. Look, you'll know me already. Like, I'm someone who doesn't throw out the generational tag easily, innit? Like, even my world class criteria is quite strict as well. So, I personally, I just don't think we need to put that on him. I think he can be like what he's going to be, what we believe he's going to be, a world class, sensational player, without putting him in, or without putting the pressure of him. He's going to be a Ballon d'Or candidate. Like, he doesn't need that. He's going to be playing in a team that's going to be littered with goals. That's why I don't think there's going to be any one individual in our team that will outshine the other. There will be periods where Havertz takes the mantle, then maybe Lukaku is the guy, and then maybe Werner might even come good. Like, so there's no pressure on Havertz, man. But I think he will be world class. Some people already have him there, not me yet, but he will be world class for sure, guaranteed. Whether or not he will be Mbappe, Haaland level, I don't know. He would have to get a ruthless gene that I don't think he has yet. Like taking things by the scruff of the neck, taking the ball and just whacking it, like, and it goes in like that. He needs that ruthless gene. But bro, easily a world-class sensational player. Yeah, he's on that trajectory for sure.
I hear you. I do hear you. Still 125 people here. Please make sure we smash the like button. We are over 100 likes now, which we appreciate massively on here. It's been a nice little stream. I've put the link in the chat for you to come on and respectfully, because there's a lot of people that have agreed and disagreed with Lorenz in the chat. So be respectful.
I do see what people mean. Like, I do. If I think about it, I'm like, as an attacker, Mount isn't better than Sancho and Rashford. I get that. As a player, I do think that he is. But as an attacker, maybe not. So maybe you guys have a point. Maybe you have a point. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about Havertz as well, or do you want to go on?
Yeah, go on, Lorenz. Yeah, why not? Go on. Wait.
It's I think he won't be at Mbappe and Haaland level just because I don't think he has quite the same killer mentality. But I think in terms of ability and talent, it's always difficult to put striker of someone like Haaland, to put all of that. Is it all ability, or is power ability, or is that a separate thing? Do you know what I mean? Because part of why Haaland is so good is just his power in his running, in his shooting. And obviously Kai doesn't have that, but in terms of actual footballing ability, I think Kai Havertz is quite a bit clear of Haaland. But that doesn't mean Haaland is a worse player. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No, I get that. Yeah.
It's like Ronaldo and Messi, people will put them on the same level, but most people will probably agree Messi is technically far superior. But obviously he doesn't have the physical attributes that Cristiano Ronaldo has. It's like maybe one of those, right? But I just, it's also like, I suppose Bruno had the numbers this season, or last season, but he's also not quite attacking enough to ever get the worldwide same appreciation as Haaland and Mbappe will, just because he will never have those number of goals.
Yeah. No, I hear that. And we have got a couple people in the back. We'll bring you on soon, guys. But I just want to talk about one more individual before we do that, and it's Timo Werner. Daniel, Timo Werner. He hasn't played the first 2 games. People were saying that he's finished, he's done. Tuchel's got no trust in him. He's not going to be playing games. That's what I've heard from some certain areas of the Chelsea social madness and Twitter. What are your thoughts on Timo Werner? Do you think he's done? Do you think that's it? Do you think he still has an opportunity to turn it around, or what's your overall thoughts of him overall?
He's gonna know what it feels like to be Cho. I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking. Nah, look, Timo Werner, it's interesting. It's an interesting one because if you speak to all the journalists around Chelsea, a lot of the people I spoke to as well, the mindset was he was going to start against Liverpool. Guaranteed. Timo Werner will play. He'll be used to exploit the high line and whatnot. And I thought he would play, even despite the fact that Havertz, Mount and Lukaku worked so well against Arsenal. And that didn't happen. So it tells me that we are slowly, or Tuchel is slowly creating a starting lineup that he trusts, that he will go to in the biggest of games and the biggest of moments. And Timo Werner might not feature in that. I think what he needs to do, again, if I do use the Cho kind of line of thinking, he will need to capitalize on the minutes that he gets. 1000%. When he gets minutes, he will have to play well. Like, he has no choice now. I still believe in Timo Werner. I don't believe, if you cast our mind back to Timo Werner versus Brighton, first game of the season against Liverpool, even against Southampton, where he was excellent, scored 2 goals in that game last season. I don't see how you become a bad player. Like, from the first couple of games to then the rest of the season. I just don't see how that happens. He didn't look like he was a bad dribbler. He didn't look like he was clumsy. He didn't look like a bad decision maker in those first couple of games. Like, he just didn't. And I was really excited about him when I saw him in the first couple of games. That first goal against Southampton, excellent. That second goal was even better. So for me, it's one of them ones where with Timo Werner, despite all the criticism with him now, he is a good squad player to have, and for him to get back into the side, he's going to have to capitalize on the minutes that he gets. Whenever he gets minutes, he's going to have to play well. He's going to have to take his chances. He can't miss the chances he missed last year because he will not see the starting 11, guaranteed, because there's too much competition.
Yeah,
I guess.
Lorenz, I'm going to throw it to you as well, mate. I know you're not a massive fan of Timo Werner. I think you've already done with him in many ways, aren't you? But tell us, can he revitalise and change your opinion on him?
It depends on what the aim is. Like, do I really want him to be a starter over Mount, Havertz, Lukaku, even Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi? No, I don't. To be honest, no. There's a few games a season where I would do, Liverpool away being one of them. Liverpool at home, Man City, and potentially some Champions League games. I was also surprised he didn't start against Liverpool. Obviously, we all know he would have come on had we not had the red card and had to make 2 subs at half-time. I'm sure he would have come on. But Dan made an interesting point there. He was really good at the start of last season. There was a fair few really good games in there. The question is, do we take that as that's how good he is and now he's just underperforming, or was he in that period just overperforming? Like, maybe I know it better than you guys because I also follow my local team here in Austria who are in the 2nd division of Austria, right? We're not a very good football team at all, right? But I've seen this team over the years score some of the most ridiculous goals I've seen in my life. Like, every player has like incredible moments. I'm not saying Timo Werner is now the level of my local club. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I've seen halfway line screamers. I've seen overhead kicks. I've seen all sorts of madness, right? But that doesn't mean they're now great players. And it's a bit like that. I don't know if Timo Werner, I think on average, he doesn't have a good touch. On average, he isn't great at finishing. Even his stats at Leipzig show that. Maybe not his last season, but we can't just take his last season at Leipzig. I did forget Ziyech. But Ziyech won't play on the left. That's why, Werner is kind of not an option on the right anyway. But I did forget about Ziyech. I am sorry. I will also prefer Ziyech over Werner.
Wow. Do you?
But I'm not sure if he is...
The disrespect, man.
What is like? Was Leipzig's last season and the first 2 games last season, was that him overperforming, or was that where he's at? If that's where he's at and he's just lacking confidence and things going for him, if that's the case and he can never get back to it, brilliant. But then he will just automatically play anyway, because if he gets to that, he's a great player, and then he will get game time. But if he doesn't get to that, then he won't get a lot of game time. And I saw someone in the chat say it, Nagelsmann at Bayern next season, wouldn't be surprised. Lewandowski is 33 already. If they can't get Haaland, which other striker do they sign? Wouldn't be surprised if they go for, Timo Werner.
Yeah, because he will score goals in the German league, and he's already proven that anyway. It's more
especially for
open out
Bayern.
there for him.
I mean, even Choupo-Moting scores goals for Bayern. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. He would. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And I still think there's a player in him. When I watched him last season, I saw him. It was like he was doing all the right things, but he was overthinking everything. When he got into the positions, it was like, you know what you need to do. Like, why are you not just doing it? Having that natural instinct in front of goal, And when you look at the goals that he scored under when he was at Leipzig, a lot of his goals when he was like 1-on-1 with the goalies, or if he was running in the box and someone was whipping it in, was all reactionary. It was just that he just done it without thinking. And so many times last season where he got the ball and he would want to take that touch before shooting at the goal. And I think that's a mental block. I think there's a mental thing there. And I do think that he has to, that's something he has to get over himself, because if he doesn't, then he will end up going. Chelsea won't keep him. If he has the same, even though he didn't have a bad season for me last season, because he did create, he was our top assister. And I know we didn't bring him in to be our top assister. I get that. He was still effective in games. He just wasn't scoring goals, and that's what he was brought in for. If he can just add double-digit goals this season and do maybe half of the assists that he done last season, then I think he's had a good season, and I think we'll keep him. But I think the Lukaku thing is going to be interesting, because we've seen Lukaku play with Martinez as a 2 up front, and it worked quite nicely for him. We know he can do that. Can he help potentially get the best out of Timo Werner? Well, he's yet to be seen, because we've not seen it yet. I just think we've got to be patient with it. I know a lot of people saying forget it, but I think we just have to be patient with it until we see that and we see them playing together in a couple of games. Then maybe we can make our decisions moving forward on what happens with Timo Werner. But I think it's the same. We bang on about Timo Werner. I think Hakim Ziyech is in the same bracket for me. He has to step up this season. He wasn't. I don't think he had the greatest of seasons last season, and this season he looked sharp. Unfortunately, he got an injury, but he needs to hit the ground running. Christian Pulisic is another player who, if he has a season like he did last season, I think you could potentially see Chelsea selling him off. I don't think
we can't keep living. Some people are still living in that post-lockdown form. Like I'm done with that. Like that's long gone. I mean, that is long gone. Like that was a time where I was even thinking that Lampard could win us the league as manager. Like that time is long gone. Pulisic needs to show some level of consistency, because that American pool or that American fan base we're trying to build, that won't happen. We will sell this guy not perform. Yeah, for sure.
We've got a couple of people in the back. Like I said, guys, you can come on, be respectful, ask your questions. If there's anything you want to talk about, you can do that. We'll bring in Declared first. Declared, how you doing, mate?
How's it going, guys?
Not bad, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Not bad.
Didn't really have much of a question. I was more wanted to talk about on the topics you guys were on. I agree with Floris on the best attack here, that Chelsea do have the best front three. Just because Man United, it sounds good player per player, but it's a little messed up. Like the way they played, it doesn't fit. Like I think I mentioned in the comments that Greenwood, Ronaldo, and who am I saying, Cavani all want to play striker. Rashford he's probably a perfect inside forward, but he gets pushed wide for Man United, so he's like playing a winger all the time, and you see him crossing the ball rather than getting the shots on goal. And Sancho has yet to shown us what he can do in the EPL as well. So as much as we think he's one of the top wingers, let's see if he can do it. And there's a question mark there. So I think that's where Havertz, Mount, and Lukaku is a better fit and a better front three for the system we play in compared to Man United. And that was on that.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Does anyone want to respond to that in any way? Do we agree?
No, that's essentially why I said what I said, like along those lines. And that's not because I think Sancho is a bad player, but that's because I think people are slightly, just because he's English doesn't mean he comes back into the Premier League and works instantly. There is a tendency that players from the Bundesliga take a little minute. Even someone as talented as Kai Havertz, who is way more talented than Jadon Sancho, in my opinion, even he took a while to get going. So I presume Jadon Sancho will as well. Next season is a different debate. Jadon Sancho will be a different animal in a year's time, and then you can have a whole different discussion. But as of right now, in terms of who I think is closest to being super threatening, but it's also a case of I just don't know how good Ronaldo's really going to be now. And it's just difficult to tell.
That's where I disagree. And I just think, look, I can understand if a Chelsea fan says we have the better attack. Look, I'm all for that. Like, I'm going to support my team. But at the end of the day, if I'm being objective and looking at it, I just think that when I'm personally, I think Mason Greenwood's at the top of the tree in terms of where you can see how a striker's trajectory will be. And Mason Greenwood isn't even close to his prime yet, and he's tearing up the league. I think he's the highest goal scorer in teenager in Man United's history.
Barely will play this season. Now that they've got Ronaldo.
Look, we don't know. He could play on the right wing. He did that. He got his goal from the right wing actually on the weekend. So
then Sancho won't play, I guess. So,
Sancho won't play. Do you know what I mean? So you've still got Ronaldo will be good. He will be fine. I'm telling you now, Ronaldo will be fine. Like anyone for doubting him, you doubt Ronaldo at your peril, man. Ronaldo will get. We're not talking about Man United as a whole now. We're just talking about Ronaldo and how he will play. He will be fine. He will get his goals. You look at Cavani being their substitute striker. He works so well for Man United, and the fact that he's not even going to be starting now, they get to use him sparingly. I just think they've got the edge in terms of attack. Our attack is still inexperienced. I think trajectory-wise, we've got the better attack, but right now, I think I'll go with United.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
Go on,
sorry, Jim.
Go on.
I probably should have had this first. But now with the biggest conversation is the ones you guys are having about where, the depth of our squad and this player who's better and where they can play. And you just saw how stacked we are. Do you guys want to see Tuchel have a different system or different formation so we can play, Ziyech and Pulisic or Cho even to maybe suit the games reverse? Or do you want to stick to what we have now and that's been working from last season and not really change much?
Short and sweet. Nah. You don't need to change the winning formula. I know people want to get more people into the team and whatnot, but you don't ruin, or you don't want to ruin the soup by adding more ingredients that you're being told to add because they look tasty. I don't think you need to do anything till it stops working.
I agree with that last bit. Until it stops working, why would you ever change anything? But I do also think we would have had to sign a different midfielder than Saul to make a back four a more valid option, in my opinion. Had we, for example, signed Declan Rice, I would have seen it as quite likely that we switch between 3 and 4 back quite often, just because he's a real DM. People know how much I love Jorginho, but I don't think, as much as under Sarri, we're actually pretty good. Won the Europa League, finished third, but pretty good, and would have only gotten better with him in that role. But I think, I'm not sure if he's then good enough with the defenders we have behind him to win as a league type thing, right? So if that's enough protection. So if we had a different DM, although I'm not sure if Rice would either, but he would at least fit the attributes more. I do think every now and again we'll probably change it, whether it's for a full game or whether it's for a second half, I don't know. We didn't talk about other leagues though, but anyway. But yeah, so I think for the 95% you will stick to the same formation, but I do think every now and again it will be different.
Well, Loris, I like what you just said at the end. What about how Italy played with Jorginho with a single 6 and maybe having Mount and
but
an extra? I know it's very experimental, right? But I feel like we hear. Not that I really want to. I'm actually want to stick to it, but it just opens up the conversation because we always questioned: is this the way Tuchel wants to play this season?
Mhm.
We weren't sure if Tuchel was going to stick to the same thing, and maybe he does have something up his sleeve, or he's not going to change a winning formula, even if he wanted to change it up.
I don't think declared. If something's working, why change it? There's no reason to change it. We have no reason, and I think until we get found out, and we will get found out. I keep saying it. Eventually, there will be we will come up against teams, and it will be a lot harder because they would have had time to maybe adapt and works out how to play against this Tuchel system. Once that does happen, then we will have to adapt, and maybe then you'll see a switch in formations. But until then, I don't think there's no need to change anything that's working for us, especially going into this season, just to get the best out of certain individuals, and like some people might say, like, for example, Daniel wants Cho to play more, but he knows he's not a right wing back, but if we switch to formation, we might play a formation that suits Callum Hudson-Odoi playing as a right midfielder, and then you might see him play. Like, we're not going to do that just to get the best out of individual players. We're going to do what works at this current time, and at the moment this system that he's playing massively works. But we've got Hassan here as well. Hassan, what are you saying, bro?
Yeah, what are you guys saying, man? How you guys been, man?
All right, mate. All right. You got anything you'd like to say?
I was just listening to what you guys were saying, right? And I've been thinking, right, with the whole situation at Chelsea with not buying many players. I'm looking at the wingers, right? And I'm looking at Pulisic, Werner, regardless of who it is, I'm looking at the entire wingers. I'm thinking, right, that Chelsea's probably saving the money in case, like, we all know they're going to save the money and spend it when they actually need to. I feel like, personally for me, I feel like players like Pulisic and the rest of the wingers have this season to do something to, like, impress. Because I can't see them go, like, another season where they only have, like, 5 goals and, like, 2 assists or something. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like next season, I don't know if you guys would agree that we're definitely going to spend the bank that we've been saving for or we've been reserving. Say if Pulisic, Odoi, Werner don't work out, we're probably going to find newer wingers and possibly along with the DM and maybe Kounde as well. Knowing the situation about Kounde, about him ignoring Sevilla calls, we're definitely going to go in for him again.
So do you think there's a lot of the reason you think Chelsea may have been reserving the money that it's spent? And let's be serious, we haven't really spent any money when we've let what £123 million worth.
I personally feel like half of our signings that we spent last season, they're gonna have like a second chance to.
Well, no, that's what I was about to say to you, because I know what you're saying, but I was just saying, obviously, we spent 123 million. No, sorry, we sold 123 million, and we spent, how much did we spend?
About
103 million. So when you think about what we've done this window, we haven't really spent anything, and obviously that's without the money we won in Champions League and whatever else. So I get what you're saying. Maybe we're reserving the option to maybe giving these individuals one more season, seeing how they get on, and if it doesn't work, then using the money that we maybe would have this season for next, and having a bit more, because we might win a Premier League, or we'll get Champions League. We should get Champions League football anyway. We might win a couple of trophies here and there. Who knows? So I get what you're saying. So maybe it is a test, and maybe we do a complete sort of washout later on after this season. But I hear that. I mean, do you agree? Do you agree what you're saying, Lorenz, there as well? Do you think that could potentially be an option for Chelsea? Or?
Potentially, you never know. I might go for someone like Chiesa or whatever. It's difficult to say, because we also spoke about, like, in terms of fitting players in. If we changed formation to a 4-back, it actually makes it difficult to put Havertz and Mount in the same team when you have Lukaku, because neither of them are real wingers, right? So if you play a 4-back and you have a 10, only one of Mount and Kai can play. Right. So part of it, the negative of switching to a back 4, for example, I know this is not what Hassan just said, but I'm just going back to it because of what do we need, right? Then it would be difficult to fit those two in. I think part of why we're playing this is because both of them are very important to what we do. And Mount is very important to what we do, and Havertz is just probably the most talented player we have in the squad. So those things, and if you in a different formation can't fit both in, does that make you better? Arguably not, even if it allows other players to be in the team that could help us, as an attacking outlet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I do hear what you're saying. Bobby's with us. Bobby, what you saying, bro? How you been?
Hey, Jem. Hi. Do you know what? I've only got about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm at work, but you're like a drug to me. You and one other stream, I just can't resist you. I just have to come up and get my Chelsea fix.
I like that.
I can't, honestly. I just the guy that spoke just before the guy that spoke, I forgot. I can't quite see your name.
Declared.
Anyway.
Hassan.
Is that declared?
Oh, Hassan.
I don't know. I need to get my glasses on. But the guy was talking about Chelsea saving money up for other deals and
Hassan.
the fact that the wingers, Hassan, he's making a lot of sense. I think it's a big season, not only for the likes of maybe not so much for Hudson-Odoi because we know he's developing, but it's a big season for the likes of Pulisic, possibly to a certain extent Ziyech, because Chelsea now mean business, and these guys can't afford to mess around. They've got to rack up more numbers. They're being watched, and next season, come the end of the season, they need to have shown improvement to what was done last season, if you know what I mean. So I really think that's the way we're going. Just now, talking about the systems that we play, we can't look at this in finite terms. Havertz and Mount will not always play together, and that's why we have this flexibility of being able to switch from 5 at the back to 4 at the back. We do this anyway in game. I've said this so many times on platforms. This is our model at the moment. We're not playing to any system. We play to whatever system we need to play in game. It sounds like a very difficult concept to grasp, but that's why Chelsea's bamboozling everybody at the moment, because the other managers are finding it hard to grasp it. This team is not they're not going to come out and be what you want them to be. They're going to come out and be what they need to be. And if you listen to Guardiola's interview just before the Champions League final, when he was trying to describe how difficult it is to play against Chelsea, he more or less was saying Chelsea is such a team that if you do this, they'll do this, 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 and this. And if you make up for all that, they'll do the other thing. And if you make up for all of them, they'll just go back to the beginning and do what you tried to prevent them from doing in the first place. You see what I mean? That's why Tuchel is top dollar. His teams are very, very, very difficult to suss out. And if you suss them out, they'll come up with something else. And that's why nobody wants to play us at the moment.
I hear you, Bobby. I do hear what you're saying, man. It's always good having you on as well. We are going to tie it up very, very soon as well, because we've been on here for an hour and 40 minutes. Still 130 people here. Massively appreciate that. Continue smashing the like button as well. We're just going to allow Sports SA to have his say quickly as well, and then we're going to tie up. But Sports SA, what do you want to say, mate?
I've got to go anyway, Jem.
Bobby,
respect
no worries,
to all of you guys. All right, speak to you later.
See you later, mate. Take care. Thanks, Bobby.
Bye.
Good afternoon, guys. My question before I ask you, I just have something that I want to say is that Chelsea seem to be we lack indirectness during games. During the Liverpool game, we saw Lukaku have the opportunity to be direct and pass the ball to Kai Havertz. We saw Kounde have the opportunity to pass to Lukaku, and he passed it left to Mount. And then we also saw Kai Havertz do the exact same thing, having the opportunity to pass to Lukaku, and instead went out wide. We seem to go out wide whenever there is an easy direct pass. My question would be, are we as Chelsea fans being harsh on Timo Werner because he is a player that's running in behind and that needs the quick direct pass? Our players seem to go out wide whenever there's an opportunity for us to give that quick direct pass. So are we as Chelsea fans being a little bit too harsh on Werner, seeing that we lack directness?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I agree with that because Daniel knows, because I've said it to him a number of times. I think we don't sometimes play to his strengths because he's always on the burners trying to make the run on the last man, and we don't really have the midfielders that want to look up and play that progressive ball enough. And he's forever having to track back in games and try and get back on side for the ball to then be played. And for me, I've seen it enough times. And is it an issue, Dan? I'll go to you, Dan. Is it an issue that we don't have midfielders that look forward enough when our forwards are making runs?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make that argument. However, I think the problem comes when Timo Werner misses a number of chances. You then lose the faith of the players who play around you. So they stop wanting to play the ball to you. They stop wanting to give you a chance and opportunity. Bro, look at what happened when Kepa was playing and making so many mistakes. It got to the point where there was a situation where the whole team at Anfield screamed Kepa's name. Like, in all my time watching football, I have never, maybe because there's fans in the stadium, but or I've never ever heard something like that where every single player turns to your keeper and is like, bro, like, come out, do something. So there was a nervousness when it comes to the players there. So with Werner, yeah, you can look at the fact that our decision making, which I still believe to be a problem in the final third, I agree with what the caller said in terms of directness. I think there's times where we can play a more decisive, more killer pass, and I think it just comes with youth. Our players in the final third are young; they're really young players. They're going to learn it. I believe they will. But with the Werner thing, I don't think it's harsh to say that Werner had the most big chances missed in Europe last season. Chelsea Football Club had the second highest XG. And again, I'm not a stats guy, but this stat is glaring. We had the second highest XG, 0.2 behind Man City, but we were bottom in converted XG. That is majorly on Timo Werner. I'm sorry, like, because of the fact that he missed a lot of big chances. So yeah, you can blame the players in terms of their final. Of course, it doesn't always happen. Mount, we get frustrated. Havertz, Ziyech, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the fact that you put confidence in your players when you can finish chances, and Werner just simply didn't finish chances.
Can I just jump in on that before we wrap it up? Because I mean, I might be wrong, but I have an opinion on this, or I think an explanation for why we have this issue. Number one is 9 times out of 10 in games, we need to constantly go out wide because the opponent just blocks down the whole set, central part of the pitch because they're so defensive. Obviously, Liverpool is an example who don't do that. And that's where the age of our attackers comes in. And that's why I think Lukaku will have a big impact. I think the age of our attackers, they're not used to, like, okay, say for 10 games in a row, we have to always guard wide because the middle is always blocked. And then you have the situation where you don't need to. Then that's where you need a dominant, experienced player like a Lukaku to help direct the team. Today, we need to do it differently. Yeah. And that's why I think experience plays a part. It didn't work against Liverpool. And for the most part, that was actually Lukaku's fault more than Mason and Kai's in terms of why we didn't end up getting more goals in the first half. Not saying Lukaku is now awful, but still, he was the one that had the 2 most glaring, easy passes to put someone one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And Kante and Havertz once each, but Lukaku had it twice. And I think, but eventually, I think once they, gel together, even better and better and better, Lukaku will be a reason why we will be better at this, to adapt from playing our usual type of game, like against these low blocks, then from the one time we switch it against the Liverpool, against the City, where we need to do things differently. I think Lukaku will be a big help in making that better.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Someone's phone's down.
Someone's kicking off.
No, I hear you. And on that note, it's probably best we finish off. Hour and 45 minutes. Massive show. Thank you very, very much to Lorenz, Daniel, Declared, Sports KA, Hassan, everyone that's come on. People, if you want to go, because there's still 130 of you here, if you want to tune into Lorenz's channel, I put the link in the chat now. So go and do that as well. Go and follow him on over there. Any final words, Lorenz, that you'd like to come out with?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I've had a lovely time. Everyone watching, be sure to subscribe to GNA TV. Subscribe to Gem right now. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Of course, check out my channel if you want to. But yeah, like I said, it's just transfer window's over. We've had a good window overall. I'm not complaining. I'm excited for the season. It will be a fascinating season. We've spoken about who has the best team. Like, we probably have the best midfield, and then some other teams that might have a better defense. Some other teams, in some people's opinion, might have a better attack. It's going to be fun. Like, I don't think ever been as many as competitive teams in the same season, and that's crazy. Like, if Liverpool stay fit, they're super competitive, but they might not have the depth. But City, United, ourselves, the squads we have is absolutely ludicrous, right? So it should be fun. It should be good. Let's hope it ends up our way. But at the end of the day, again, thank you for having me, and I'm sure I'll be back soon.
Yes, mate, you're always welcome. We'll definitely be getting you on debate shows, which is something we do a lot over here about individual players. Dan's usually on them with me most of the time as well, talking about Cho, Christensen, whoever it is that we want to talk about, who's pissed us off or who's not pissed us off. But Dan, you got any final words, mate? And also, if you want to go and follow Dan, you can catch him on Eyes on the Ball TV as well. The link to his channels there as well, guys. So make sure you go and follow him on over there. Go on, Dan.
Yeah, man. No, great show again. Obviously, great debates. It's always good. Like, that's the point of these podcasts, man. It's always good to see people from have different perspective. Guaranteed, man. But yeah, follow Eyes on the Ball TV. You can also catch me live in the studio at High Press Media. So make sure you get High Press Media on YouTube. That's where you'll see me mainly, High Press Media. So yeah, man, another great show. Make sure you follow GNA TV for sure. Smash the like button. All of that good stuff. But yeah, man, great show.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. And then Declared and obviously Sports SA. You guys, thank you for coming on as well. Appreciate it massively. We have got a Discord group as well. The link is there. Hassan's put it in. You can always jump on there and talk afterwards if you'd like to. No problem. But please make sure you continue smashing the like button. As always, guys, subscribe to the channel as well. And we will probably be back either tomorrow or Saturday. So yeah, peace. Enjoy the rest of your days. And we'll see you again very, very soon.
VIP, stay low key, like bando bitch, oh please, yeah. Brand new whip, no keys, yeah. Get down on knees.